had my luggage packed and was getting ready to head out the door with my son for our vacation trip when a text came through on my phone. The message said I wouldn't be joining them on their Italian getaway. My daughter-in-law had decided she wanted this to be just a family holiday. They ended up taking only her mother and father along with them, leaving me at home by myself. This happened right after I had covered the costs for their brand new home. So, I immediately stopped all the mortgage payments and put the house up for sale. You're going to be shocked when you hear what went down after they returned from their trip. I'll tell you everything. First, let me thank you for watching Granny's Voice. Please subscribe and tell us where you're watching from in the comments. We might give you a shout out in our next video. Today's special shout out goes to Hannah from Madagascar. Thank you for being part of our family. Now, let me tell you everything. I was in my bedroom carefully folding up my go-to travel blouse when I heard my cell phone vibrating on the bedside table. The soft lavender cotton material felt nice in my hands as I worked out the creases, already picturing myself wearing it to that cozy restaurant Devon had discovered close to the Vatican. My travel bag was spread open across my bed like it was waiting for an adventure, already halfway packed with the outfits I had picked out especially for our Italian trip. I had checked the weather forecast and it was showing clear, sunny conditions in Rome. Absolutely perfect for all those walking tours I had researched and printed out, then stuffed into my carry-on bag. While I was trying to decide between my brown leather flats and my comfortable walking sneakers, I found myself quietly humming along to an old Andrea Bocelli song playing from my phone speaker. Our plane tickets to Leonardo da Vinci Airport were sitting right there on my nightstand beside my passport, both looking fresh and official. With just 4 hours left before we were supposed to take off, my chest had that familiar feeling you get before traveling. That mix of excitement and butterflies that always comes before a big trip. Then my phone started buzzing again. I could see Devon's name lighting up the screen. I put down the blouse I was holding and grabbed my phone, thinking he was probably calling with some last-minute flight information or maybe reminding me about where we were supposed to meet up at the airport. But what I read instead made my blood turn to ice water in my veins. The text said I would not be accompanying them to Italy. His wife had decided it would be better if this vacation remained just for family members only. I read those words one time, then I read them again, and then a third time with my thumb just hanging there over the screen. Like maybe if I stared at it long enough, the message might somehow change into something different. I was still holding that cardigan I had been about to fold, and my brain was having trouble making sense of what I was looking at on that screen. Just family members only. Those words kept playing over and over in my head like a song stuck on repeat. But I was his mother. I was the one who had planned out this entire trip. I was the one who had purchased all the airline tickets, spent hours researching the best restaurants, and created our whole travel schedule during all those late evening planning sessions at my kitchen table. What was supposed to make sense about family members only when the person getting that message was your own mother? I dropped down onto the edge of my bed with the open suitcase still sitting there next to me. My hands were shaking just a little bit as I managed to type back the only thing I could think of to say. I just wrote back, okay. The disappointment felt like it was settling into my chest like a heavy rock. I looked around my bedroom and saw all the things I had gotten ready for a vacation that wasn't going to happen anymore. There were all those travel-sized bottles of shampoo and conditioner lined up on top of my dresser. All those guidebooks were sitting there with their yellow sticky note marks marking all the places we had been planning to visit together. The brand new camera I had bought just for this vacation was still sitting in its original box, unopened. I closed up my suitcase, taking my time with each motion, being very deliberate about it. Every snap of those metal clasps echoed through the quiet bedroom with a sense of finality. Then I picked up my phone and called the airline, listening to that annoying hold music while I waited to speak with someone about cancelling my reservation. The woman who helped me was nice about it and handled everything quickly and professionally. She said, "I'm really sorry to hear your plans changed, Mrs. Chen." And I found myself wondering if she could pick up on the disappointment that was probably obvious in my voice. After I hung up, I went and sat down in my living room, just staring at all those travel brochures that were spread out across my coffee table. The house seemed more empty than it usually did, quiet in a way that made my ears feel like they were ringing. From outside, I could hear Mrs. Thornton's dog barking at something off in the distance, that sharp insistent sound cutting through the suburban quiet. I reached over and picked up one of those brochures. It was a shiny pamphlet all about Roman architecture, and I set it down on the side table next to my chair. It was a small pointless gesture, but it was about all I could handle in that moment when I was finally understanding that I had been very carefully and very intentionally excluded from their plans. When evening time rolled around, it brought with it the same quiet emptiness that had been filling up my house all day long. I had been moving around like a zombie through those hours, even leaving my dinner plate sitting dirty in the sink instead of washing them right away like I always do. That packed suitcase was still sitting there by my bedroom door, constantly reminding me of all the plans that were never going to happen now. I had the television going in the living room, some evening news show that I wasn't really paying attention to. I kept picking up my phone for no real reason, just scrolling through random stuff, feeling restless, and making my fingers fidget against the screen. I figured maybe checking Facebook might help distract me from this empty feeling I had in my chest. I scrolled past Mr. Walsh's pictures of his cat, some recipe posts from the ladies in my book club, and political stuff that I didn't feel like reading. The familiar blue light from the screen was actually kind of soothing in my living room as it was getting darker outside. That's when I spotted it. Sienna's parents were standing right there in front of the Colosseum. Both of them smiling big at the camera with that look tourists get when they found the perfect spot for a photo. The caption underneath said, "Beginning of the best family vacation ever." The timestamp showed it had been posted just 2 hours earlier. My thumb stopped moving above the screen. Maybe they had taken a different trip, or maybe this was just an old picture they decided to post now. My heart started beating faster as I clicked on the profile to look at more pictures. And there it was. Same location, same time, but this photo had 4 people in it. Sienna's parents, Sienna, and Devon, all of them grouped together in front of some Roman cafe near the Trevi fountain with wine glasses sitting on the table behind them. Devon had written a caption that made my stomach feel like it was falling through the floor. It said, "So grateful for family time in the eternal city." I counted the faces in that photo with fingers that were starting to shake. 1 person, 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. That word family felt like it was burning itself into my brain like a hot iron. I put the phone down on my coffee table with their happy faces still glowing up from the screen. I got up and walked over to my kitchen window, looking out at my neighbor's house where I could see warm lights shining from their windows, family spending the evening together. The feeling of being betrayed hit me like ocean waves, with each one hitting harder than the one before it. I grabbed my phone once more, telling myself maybe I had gotten it wrong somehow. Maybe those pictures would show something different if I looked again. But there they were, still posted with recent timestamps, their faces still beaming with that carefree joy. All 4 of them together in that city I had been dreaming about visiting, enjoying the vacation I had put together, following the travel plan I had spent hours researching. I went back over to my kitchen window and caught sight of my own face looking back at me in the glass, pale and with dark circles under my eyes. Behind my reflection, I could still see their group picture glowing on my phone screen, their joy mixing with the image of me standing there alone. The difference between us was sharp and hurt to look at, like a picture that showed me exactly what my place was in their idea of what family meant. I had barely gotten any sleep at all, just lying there tossing around in bed while pictures of their vacation kept flashing through my mind every time I closed my eyes. When morning finally came with that dull grey light creeping in through my bedroom curtains, I knew I had to get some answers. I couldn't just let this go without finding out why this had happened. My coffee cup was trembling a little in my hands as I sat there at my kitchen table, going over in my head what I was going to say to Devon. With the time difference, it was already afternoon over in Rome, which made it the perfect time to call. I took a long deep breath and punched in his number, listening to that expensive-sounding international ringtone. It rang 3 times, then 4 times. Then I heard his voice sounding happy and upbeat. "Hey there, Mom." I could hear all kinds of noise in the background. Sienna talking, street sounds, all that busy atmosphere you get in an Italian city. "I need to understand something," I said, getting right to the point. "What's that?" He sounded like he wasn't really paying attention, probably looking at some tourist attraction or store window. "I saw those pictures on Facebook. Sienna's mother and father are right there with you." There was a pause, and it went on for a long time. Then when he spoke again, his voice had changed and sounded like he was getting ready to defend himself. "Mom, we can talk about this and explain everything. You told me it was just for family members only. So what does that make me then?" Now his voice was getting colder. "Listen, Sienna said you can be too much to handle. She didn't want you messing up her vacation." That phrase, "too much to handle," felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. Messing it up. I'm the one who planned this whole trip. I'm the one who bought all the tickets. And Sienna's mother and father paid for their own way. They don't expect us to look after them all the time. All the time. Those words just hung there in the air between us like he was accusing me of something. "I help support you, too. When that was something you decided to do," he cut me off. "We never asked you to make us feel guilty about it." I could hear Sienna laughing about something completely different in the background. Her voice sounded relaxed and like she had no idea what we were talking about. Hearing that sound made my teeth clench together. "To be honest with you, Mom," Devon kept going and his voice was getting harder with every word he said. "Sienna was right about this. You need too much attention." My phone felt like it weighed a ton in my hand. "I get it now." "Good. We'll have a conversation when we get back home." "I understand." I ended the call without saying goodbye. I put the phone down very carefully on the table. That phrase, "need too much attention," kept repeating in my head like some kind of terrible song. I found myself walking to my home office, pulled there by some feeling I couldn't put a name to. Every wall was covered with family pictures. There was one of me teaching Devon how to ride his bicycle. His college graduation ceremony picture. His wedding day when I walked him down the aisle with tears of happiness running down my face. My hands slowly closed into tight fists as I looked at all these images of a relationship I had apparently been completely wrong about. In one picture, I was holding baby Devon, both of us smiling for the camera. My reflection in the glass showed an older woman now, tougher looking with something cold starting to grow behind her eyes. I reached out and adjusted the picture frame, making small, careful movements. That little action felt important somehow, like I was fixing more than just a crooked photograph. I stayed there in my office after that phone call, surrounded by all the proof of what I had thought was love, but was apparently just me being useful. Every single photo on that wall was telling a story I was only now starting to understand the right way. There was the wedding photo where I walked Devon down the aisle. I had spent $42,000 on that day making sure every detail was perfect because I wanted him to be happy. The college graduation picture was there, too. I had taken care of his student loan payments when Sienna couldn't find any work after her own graduation. The house hunting photos were spread out across my desk. I had co-signed their mortgage paperwork when the banks wouldn't give them approval on their own. Christmas photos showed all those expensive presents under trees that I had purchased. Birthday parties where my gifts got opened last, almost like they had forgotten about them. Every memory was adding more weight to my chest, a pressure that kept building up and made it hard to get enough air. I opened up my desk drawer and took out bank statements and receipts I had been keeping out of habit. The down payment money for their house. $95,000 that came out of my retirement savings. Money I had been putting away for my own future. Car payments I had taken over when Sienna lost her first job. Credit card bills I had paid when they couldn't make their monthly payments. The vacation savings account I had been building up for years. Money that had ended up buying their plane tickets to Italy. But it wasn't only about the money. I started remembering all the plans I had cancelled, all the things I had given up that went way deeper than just dollars and cents. That art class with my old friends that I called off because Devon needed me to watch the house while they went to a concert. The gentleman from my book club who had asked me out to dinner. I had told him no because Devon needed help with moving to their new place. My own travel dreams that I kept putting off over and over again while I was supporting theirs instead. Those Sunday dinners where Sienna barely looked at me. Holiday gatherings where I felt like an outsider. All the subtle ways she made me feel unwelcome while taking my financial support. The pattern was obvious now. I couldn't believe I'd missed it. My hands trembled as I flipped the photos face down. That phrase, "need too much attention," kept repeating in my head. Suddenly, I understood the difference between being loved and being useful. They never wanted me in their lives. They wanted me to fund them. I jumped up so fast my chair hit the wall. The mirror showed someone who'd been used for years, someone who confused generosity with love and got manipulation back. The reflection showed a woman who'd been patient and giving, repaid with betrayal. I opened my laptop, staring at my bank account where both Devon and Sienna had access. My finger hovered over the trackpad, one click from changing everything, but I closed it. The action hung suspended. Some decisions need planning, not impulse. I sat in my office's heavy silence. The closed laptop felt like a door I wasn't ready to open. Years of manipulation weighed on my shoulders as I stared at the overturned family photos. My quiet house held its breath. Then my phone pinged with my banking app notification. I almost ignored it, expecting routine spam. But something made me check. Account alert. Transaction processed. I opened the app expecting a utility bill. Instead, the details hit like a punch. $892. Illinois Convivio Restaurant, Rome, Italy. Timestamp 3 hours ago. Their lunchtime. Devon had used my authorized user card. Emergency access I'd given him years ago when he was building credit. The irony burned. They excluded me from their family vacation, but used my money for fancy Roman meals. I scrolled through recent transactions with growing disbelief. Hotel charges, boutiques, attractions, all on my card, while Sienna's parents supposedly paid their own way. I paced my office, phone clutched tight. Every family photo looked different now, like evidence. The thought formed clearly. This is my chance. I opened the card management section. Devon's name sat in black letters representing years of financial access granted from love returned as manipulation. Another ping. $127. Delegate Style Galleria, Rome. He was shopping while I processed their betrayal. That decided it. My finger hovered over remove user. Years of being supportive warred with certainty that support and exploitation were different. The confirmation appeared. Are you sure? This cannot be undone. I selected yes. Authorized user access revoked. I felt my first real control in years. Foreign but satisfying. I set the phone down carefully, looking at my reflection in the dark screen. For the first time in days, I smiled. I went to make coffee, moving with more purpose than I'd felt since that devastating text. The coffee maker gurgled while my neighbor's lawn mower started. Ordinary life continuing as my quiet revolution began. Next morning, I sat at my kitchen table, actually enjoying coffee for the first time in days. The paper lay spread before me when my phone rang aggressively. International number. 9 in the morning here, 4 in the afternoon in Rome. I let it ring twice before answering, no longer eager to please. Good morning, Devon, I said, hearing his sharp intake. Mom, what did you do to the card? Immediately demanding. No pleasantries. I removed your account access. Don't give me that. I tried paying for lunch and it was declined in front of Sienna's parents. His voice could cut glass. The waiter came back 4 times. It was humiliating. That must have been embarrassing, I replied, sipping coffee. Embarrassing. It was mortifying. You can't do that. I need that card. For what? I thought you didn't need me taking care of you constantly. That's completely different. His voice kept getting shriller with every word. Is it? There was quiet, and I could hear muffled talking in the background before he returned with poison in his tone. You fix this immediately or you'll face consequences. What consequences? Sienna and I have been discussing things. When we return, we're researching care facilities. My coffee mug stopped halfway to my mouth. Care facilities. You're aging, Mom. You clearly can't manage your money responsibly. The cruelty in his words was shocking. We'll sell your house to cover the costs. You don't need all that room anyway. I heard Sienna speaking behind him. Tell her it's for her benefit. Sienna says it's for your benefit. I sat in extended silence, absorbing these threats. They wanted to put me in an institution and sell my home because I'd cut off their vacation spending. The nerve was incredible. "Mom, are you there? Restore my card access." I heard everything. "Good. So, you'll handle it?" "No." "What do you mean no?" "I mean, no. Enjoy your family vacation." "Mom, don't you dare." I ended the call and placed the phone face down. My hand stayed calm as I took a long drink of coffee, gazing out my kitchen window at my well-kept yard. This house I'd owned for 28 years, completely paid off with only my name on the deed. The house they imagined they could sell to stick me somewhere convenient. I got up with fresh determination, leaving my unfinished coffee, and headed toward my office with purposeful steps. There was business to handle. I retrieved my house deed from the filing cabinet, laying it on my desk like a strategy map, but it wasn't my deed I was examining. It was the second property document for Devon and Sienna's house on Oak Avenue with my name alone on the title, exactly as it had been since I purchased it for them. I recalled that conversation 3 years back. "Just for mortgage approval, Mom. We'll switch it to our names once everything's finalized." They'd been too occupied with their lives for paperwork, always promising to handle it next month, next season, next year. I located Elena Ruiz's business card in my desk drawer. She'd sold me both properties, a reliable woman who valued discretion. I grabbed my keys and left. The drive to her office took me through familiar Cedar Falls streets. Mr. Rodriguez waved from his garden as I backed out, his friendly wave reminding me how ordinary this morning appeared. 20 minutes later, I parked at Ruiz Properties located in a restored Victorian that Elena had renovated with clear care. Elena glanced up from her computer as I walked in, surprise and pleasure showing on her face. "Maggie, great to see you. How's retirement going?" "I need to sell the Oak Avenue property. Fast." She stopped, her experienced eyes catching something in my expression. "The house you purchased for Devon. Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine. I just need it sold. What's the market doing?" Elena turned to her computer, accessing comparable sales with professional skill. "Market's strong right now. Properties like that in that area, 225,000, maybe 215,000. The figure pleased me. I'd paid 148,000 3 years ago. "How fast are we talking?" Elena asked. "ASAP. Price it to sell." She pulled out listing forms, inspection schedules, her movements practiced and comforting. "We'll need photos, possibly some staging. I can have my crew there tomorrow." "The house has current occupants." "Oh, will Devon coordinate the showings?" "Devon's in Italy. I have keys." Elena seemed slightly puzzled, but professionally accommodating. We covered listing price, commission, closing schedules. I signed the listing contract, my signature confident and final. "I'll begin marketing right away," Elena said. "In this market, we might have offers within days." We shook hands and I valued her professionalism, how she avoided unnecessary questions. Walking to my car, I felt lighter than I had in days. Classical music from my radio filled the quiet as I drove slowly through downtown Cedar Falls, viewing my hometown with fresh perspective. At a red light, a young family crossed the street, mother holding a toddler, father with a stroller. I remembered when Devon was that age, before everything became about money and manipulation and what I could provide instead of who I was. I pulled into my driveway and sat briefly looking at my mailbox with Chen painted in faded letters. The name felt different now, meaningful again. I walked up my front steps, keys jingling, a sound promising more changes ahead. Inside, I opened my laptop to find an email from the real estate service. "Property listed" successfully appeared on screen and I felt satisfaction seeing those words. But more work remained. I opened a new browser tab and searched moving services Cedar Falls, Iowa. Large corporate companies filled the first results, but I scrolled past them seeking something personal and dependable. I found Carla's Reliable Moving, a small operation with solid reviews, family-owned for 12 years, the type of business where you speak to the owner, not a call center. I called the number expecting exactly that. "Carla's Moving. This is Carla." Her voice was warm, direct. No company script. I need help moving some stuff tomorrow. It's urgent. What kind of schedule are we looking at? Tomorrow morning, if you can. It's a whole house full of things. Where are we going from and to? Carla asked. I gave her Devon's address explaining everything needed storage. Storage place set up. She asked, and I realized I hadn't arranged that yet. I can suggest safe keep storage on Pine Street, Carla continued. Work with them regularly. Need their number. Within minutes, I had Marcus from Safe Keep Storage on a three-way call, working out details. For a whole house, you'll need at least a 10 by 20 unit, Carla recommended. First month upfront. That's $135, Marcus said. I'll take it. Can someone meet us there tomorrow? Back with Carla, we settled the specifics. My truck and 2 workers. We can begin at 8:15 in the morning. What's the address again? I gave Devon's Oak Avenue address, adding, the people living there are traveling. I'd like everything finished before they get back. Got it. Family matter. Carla's voice suggested she'd handled these situations before. Something like that. Been through it myself. We'll be quick and respectful. After finishing the calls and paying storage online, I cooked dinner with an appetite I hadn't had in days. I set my alarm for 6:30 in the morning, earlier than my usual retirement routine, and laid out work clothes, my old jeans and comfortable shoes from my teaching days before I became someone who paid for other people's dreams instead of chasing my own. I sat in my living room watching evening news with fresh focus. The weather report showed clear skies, perfect for moving. Everything was coming together with a smoothness that felt both satisfying and meant to be. That night, I made sure my phone was charging, placing it on my nightstand beside a water glass. In the bathroom mirror, while brushing my teeth, I saw someone I hardly knew, someone prepared for action, someone who'd quit asking permission to control her own life. I got to the Oak Avenue property at 7:45 in the morning, 15 minutes early, like always. The house I knew so well looked different now. Not my son's home anymore, just a property that needed emptying. Carla's moving truck sat outside already, motor idling, steam showing in the cool morning air. Carla stepped out of the cab when I drove up, a sturdy woman in her 50s with the no-nonsense attitude of someone who dealt with countless family dramas without judging. Her 2 crew members, younger people in matching company shirts, were already pulling out equipment with smooth efficiency. Mrs. Chen. Carla offered a calloused hand. Ready to start? I opened the front door with my backup key, the house quiet and hollow in a way that seemed right. We went through each room, Carla evaluating furniture and belongings with expert eyes. This will take about 3 hours, maybe 4, with the heavy stuff, she said, writing on her clipboard. I showed her what was Devon and Sienna's, which meant everything. The pricey sectional couch I'd gotten them last Christmas. Sienna's fancy home office setup with all her equipment. Devon's huge wardrobe filling 2 walk-in closets. The crew began with bedroom boxes, wrapping and marking with organized precision. I demanded to help despite Carla's concerns about insurance. I'm not that old, I said, getting a smile from one of the younger workers. Soon, I was hauling boxes marked Devon's books and Sienna's sports gear, feeling odd satisfaction watching their stuff get packed away so systematically. In their bedroom closet, I discovered photo albums from their wedding. Looking through them, I noticed I was missing from most pictures. Sienna's family featured in every shot while I showed up in maybe 2 photos, always on the sides. I shut the album and gave it to Carla's crew. Room after room, we cleared expensive things I'd forgotten buying them. Designer handbags, electronics, the leather dining room set I'd bought for their first anniversary. My back began hurting, but I kept going, powered by purpose I hadn't felt in years. In what was meant to be a future nursery, I found baby furniture they'd hopefully put together for grandchildren that never happened. For a second, doubt snuck in. Was I being too cruel? Then I discovered Sienna's credit card bills showing luxury spending while they cried poverty to me, and the doubt vanished entirely. You all right, Mrs. Chen? Carla asked, seeing my hesitation. Just remembering things. Let's continue. By 11:45 in the morning, we completed our last check of the empty house. Rooms sounded different now. Afternoon light pouring through naked windows onto bare floors. I locked up and kept the keys, following the moving truck to safekeep storage where I watched their belongings vanish into Unit 52C. I paid Carla cash, adding a big tip. "Hope things work out for you, Mrs. Chen," she said with real warmth. Driving home alone, I saw my phone flash with a Facebook alert. I pulled into my garage, the device still buzzing in the cup holder like a nagging reminder that my peaceful morning was about to get much more complex. Inside my house, I finally checked the buzzing phone to find several Facebook notifications. Devon had posted furious status updates. Some people have no respect for family privacy. The comments showed friends asking what happened with Devon playing victim perfectly. I closed Facebook without answering and called Elena Ruiz back. "Maggie, excellent news." Elena sounded thrilled. "We have a serious buyer. Cash offer. This fast. Young couple just moved here for jobs. They love the area." She paused dramatically. "Offer is 208,000. Higher than expected." The number pleased me. "When do they want to close?" "That's the thing. They want to close right away. They could move in this weekend if we can manage it." I looked at my calendar. Today was Thursday. This weekend. They're in a corporate apartment month to month. Very eager buyers. Elena's excitement was catching. "Can you do fast closing?" "I can have documents ready by tomorrow." "Make it happen." Friday morning found me at the title office signing documents with careful precision. I met the buyers, Jasper and Lily Kumar, early 30s, the type of optimistic young couple that reminded me of Devon and Sienna before bitterness set in. "We love what you did with the yard," Lily said during our final walkthrough of the empty house. I didn't mention it wasn't my yard work. "It's perfect," Jasper said, taking the keys. "We can move in tomorrow morning." The bank transfer alert appeared on my phone. 208,000 minus realtor fees meant 192,000 profit. I'd turned my motherly gesture into a solid business success. Saturday morning, I chose to drive by the property one final time. I arrived to see a U-Haul in the driveway, Jasper and Lily directing movers with contagious enthusiasm. A baby crib was going inside. Young family beginning fresh in a house that had witnessed too much disappointment. I parked across the street watching Lily plant flowers in the garden while Jasper built a swing set in the backyard. My phone rang with an international number and I answered just as a taxi pulled up to the house. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. Devon climbed out of the taxi first, looking worn out from all that traveling, but instantly becoming alert when he saw what was happening in front of him. Sienna handled paying the cab driver, and I watched her face go from being puzzled to completely alarmed as she took in the sight of that U-Haul truck and these strangers standing in what she thought was her own driveway. "Hey, excuse me." Sienna called out to Lily, who glanced up from where she was working in the garden with that friendly, curious look people get when they're interrupted. "What exactly are you people doing in our house?" Jasper stepped into the doorway, holding some official-looking paperwork in his hands. "Your house. I think there might be some kind of misunderstanding here." I climbed out of my own car and walked steadily toward this whole scene that was unfolding, reaching into my jacket pocket to pull out an envelope I had prepared. Devon caught sight of me standing there, and I watched his facial expression change from confusion to understanding to absolute rage in the space of about 3 seconds. "Mom, what the hell is going on here? Why are there complete strangers moving around in our house?" Devon's voice had that razor-sharp edge to it that I had grown so tired of listening to over the years. Jasper and Lily gave each other those worried looks that people exchange when they suddenly find themselves in the middle of someone else's drama. And Lily was still gripping that gardening trowel in her hand like she might actually need to use it to defend her new home. I don't know who you think you are," Sienna said to Lily, her voice getting more aggressive by the second. "But you need to pack up all your stuff and get out of here immediately." Jasper raised up his paperwork so Sienna could see it clearly. "I've got the deed right here in my hand. We completed the closing process yesterday." "That's completely impossible. This house belongs to us." Lily's voice was quiet, but you could hear the determination in it. Maybe we should go ahead and call the police about this. I stepped forward at that point, letting my voice carry that calm, steady authority that I had developed during all those years when I was managing classrooms and dealing with difficult situations. That's not going to be necessary. Devon's tone immediately became demanding, the way it always did when he expected me to jump in and fix whatever problem he was facing. Mom, you need to fix this situation right now. I spoke to Jasper and Lily first because they were the innocent parties in all of this mess. I'm truly sorry for all this confusion you're having to deal with. Please go ahead and continue with moving into your new home. Then I turned my attention to Devon and Sienna, and my voice was steady and matter-of-fact. The house was sold because it belonged to me, not to you. Sienna's face started turning that deep red color that meant she was getting really angry. What do you mean it belonged to you? That doesn't make any sense. If you check the original deed documents, you'll see it was never actually transferred into your names like you thought it was. Devon's voice rose up to that familiar pitch that could probably shatter glass. You can't just go ahead and sell our home out from under us like this. I can absolutely sell my own property, I replied in an even tone, which is exactly what I did. This is nothing but theft, plain and simple. We're going to sue you for everything you're worth. Sienna was practically screaming at this point, her face getting redder by the second. With what money are you planning to do that? I seem to remember that your credit cards got declined when you were living it up in Rome. Jasper leaned over and whispered something to Lily, and she nodded her agreement before they both started heading toward their front door. Their front door now, not Devon and Sienna's anymore. Please just go inside and don't worry about this, I told them calmly. This whole situation doesn't concern you at all. Devon's voice took on that desperate, frantic quality that I remembered from when he was a little boy and didn't get his way. Where are we supposed to live now? Where did you put all of our things? I held out the envelope that I had been carrying in my jacket pocket. Sienna practically lunged forward and snatched it out of my hand, tearing it open with fingers that were shaking from anger. She read the contents out loud in a voice full of disbelief. Safe Keep Storage Facility, Unit Number 52C, Pine Street location. Storage. Devon's voice actually cracked when he said it. You took our entire life and put it in some storage unit. I made sure everything was preserved carefully and safely. The first month's rent has already been paid in full. Sienna crumpled up the paper in her fist like it was garbage. This whole thing is completely insane. You can't do something like this to your own family. Real family doesn't exclude their own mothers from family vacations and call them needy. That's a completely different situation and you know it. Is it really though? Sienna took a step closer to me, trying to use her physical presence to intimidate me the way bullies do. We're going to fight this in court. We're going to challenge every single thing you've done. The sale is completely legal and above board. The property was mine from the very beginning. Devon's voice changed again, taking on that manipulative tone that he had perfected since he was a child whenever he wanted something from me. How could you possibly do something this cruel to your own son? I looked at him for a long moment, really studying his face. How could you do what you did to your own mother? Lily came back out of the house at that moment, and there was genuine concern written all over her face. Is everything going to be all right out here? Everything is perfectly fine, I assured her with a smile. I hope you and your husband enjoy your beautiful new home. Devon and Sienna were left standing there on the sidewalk, still holding their fancy Italian luggage in their hands, looking exactly like lost tourists who had somehow wandered into the wrong person's life story. I walked back toward my car with deliberate, measured steps, my comfortable shoes making solid contact with the pavement beneath my feet. This whole thing isn't over, old lady. Sienna shouted at my back as I reached my car. I got behind the wheel and turned the key in the ignition, and my classical music station picked up exactly where it had left off when I parked. Yes, it absolutely is over. I drove away without looking back, watching them grow smaller in my rearview mirror until they disappeared completely. The drive home felt different somehow, lighter, like I had put down a burden I'd been carrying for so long that I'd forgotten what it felt like to walk without it. When I pulled into my own driveway, my house looked more welcoming than it had in weeks. The flowers in my garden were blooming, the lawn was neatly trimmed, and the whole place seemed to be inviting me back to a life that was actually mine. I went inside and made myself a cup of tea, settling into my favorite chair by the window. The silence in my house wasn't lonely anymore. It was peaceful. It was mine. Over the next few days, my phone rang constantly with calls from Devon and Sienna that I chose not to answer. They left voicemail messages that progressed from angry demands to desperate pleas, but I deleted each one without listening all the way through. I spent my time differently now. I went to my book club meetings and actually enjoyed them instead of rushing through to get back home in case Devon needed something. I took long walks in the park. I started that watercolor painting class I'd been putting off for 3 years. The gentleman from my book club, Richard, asked me out for coffee one afternoon. This time, I said yes. We sat in a cozy cafe downtown, talking about books and travel and all the places we'd always wanted to see. He told me about his late wife, and I told him about my situation with Devon, though I kept the details vague. Family can be complicated, he said with understanding in his eyes. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is set boundaries. I'm learning that, I replied, and I meant it. 3 months later, I was sitting at my kitchen table enjoying my morning newspaper and a fresh cup of coffee when my doorbell chimed. A process server was standing on my front porch holding legal documents that turned out to be Devon and Sienna's lawsuit against me. I signed for the papers without feeling the slightest bit of surprise that they had actually gone through with their threat. By that same afternoon, I was sitting in the exact same kitchen chair reviewing the court's official decision. Lawsuit dismissed. Property owner had full legal right to sell her own property. The judge had been extremely thorough in his review and completely unsympathetic to their various claims and arguments. Devon and Sienna were now responsible for paying their own attorney fees, which I imagined was going to be quite expensive for them. My own lawyer called me within an hour of the ruling. Clean victory, Maggie. They don't have any grounds whatsoever for an appeal. The local newspaper even ran a small article about the whole situation. Family property dispute officially resolved. I filed all the paperwork in my new folder that I had labeled Legal Victory, and then I simply moved on with my day like it was any other day. The town's gossip network had been working overtime for months, buzzing with talk about the whole situation. When I stopped by the coffee shop, I couldn't help but overhear some of the conversations happening at nearby tables. I always thought that daughter-in-law of hers seemed like an entitled brat. Other people were saying things like, Maggie Chen worked hard her entire life building up what she had. She deserved so much better treatment than what she got from those two. There were some disapproving voices that muttered things like, family should always stick together no matter what. But I had finally learned how to let other people's opinions just roll right off me, like water rolling off a duck's back. When I ran into Elena Ruiz at the hardware store a few days later, she asked me, how are you holding up with everything that's happened? I'm doing better than I ever expected I would. That afternoon, I went to the pet store I had spotted months earlier. Scout, a 3-year-old golden retriever, needed a new home because his family was relocating overseas. He's been with a family, great with people, enjoys car rides, the owner told me. I crouched down and Scout came right over, his tail wagging like he'd been waiting just for me. The bond was immediate. Scout seemed to sense my loneliness, and I recognized his need for someone who wouldn't leave him behind. An hour later, Scout was riding in my passenger seat, head hanging out the window, both of us driving toward something different. That first night, he slept beside my bed. And for the first time in months, neither of us was alone. With Scout lying at my feet, I looked up travel trailers online. Best RVs for senior travel brought me to articles about freedom and adventure. At RV lots, salespeople were happy to help. I test drove a 28-foot Airstrom, the right size for one person and a dog who had already claimed the front seat before we even finished the paperwork. I used my second car's trade-in value plus my savings to buy it completely. Scout took to RV living right away. We mapped our route. National parks, small towns, places I'd always wanted to visit but had put off for family duties. The morning we left Cedar Falls, my house was ready for a long absence. I had arranged mail holding and asked neighbors to check on the property. Loading the trailer, I packed camping equipment, Scouts gear, and one photo album with pictures of Devon as a child before disappointment changed us both. Scout could sense adventure ahead, his excitement spreading to me as I started the engine and checked the trailer hitch. We drove through Cedar Falls one final time, past familiar spots that seemed smaller now. Going by Oak Avenue, I saw Jasper and Lily's kids playing in the yard. The house was finally filled with the happiness it was designed for. The highway sign said Montana, 850 miles. Scout had his head out the window, my hand firm on the wheel. Both of us finally free. As we drove, I thought about all the years I had spent trying to be the perfect mother, the perfect supporter, the perfect ATM machine for my son's dreams. I had confused enabling with love, generosity with care. I had thought that if I just gave enough, sacrificed enough, paid for enough, eventually I would earn my place in his life. But that's not how love works. Real love isn't transactional. Real family doesn't keep score. And real relationships don't require one person to diminish themselves so the other can feel bigger. The mountains grew larger on the horizon as we drove west. Scout barked excitedly at a passing deer, and I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in what felt like years. The sun was setting behind us, casting long shadows across the highway, and ahead of us lay nothing but open road and possibility. I stopped for gas at a small town in Wyoming, and while the tank was filling, I pulled out my phone. There were 17 missed calls from Devon, a dozen text messages ranging from angry to pleading. I looked at them for a long moment, then did something I should have done months ago. I blocked the number. Scout looked up at me from the passenger seat, his brown eyes full of uncomplicated affection. He didn't want anything from me except companionship. He didn't measure my worth by my bank account. He just wanted to be near me, to share this adventure, to exist in the same space without demands or conditions. "You're a good boy," I told him, scratching behind his ears. His tail thumped against the seat. We spent that night at a campground in the Rockies. I set up my camping chair outside the RV, and Scout settled at my feet while I watched the stars come out. They were brighter here than they ever were in Cedar Falls, undimmed by streetlights and expectations. A woman from the neighboring campsite walked over with a friendly smile. "Beautiful dog." "Thank you. His name is Scout." "I'm Barbara," she said. "Mind if I join you? My husband's already asleep and I'm not quite ready to call it a night." We talked for hours. She was a retired nurse traveling with her husband in their own RV. They'd been on the road for 2 years, visiting every national park they could find. She told me stories of the places they'd been, the people they'd met, the freedom they'd discovered in letting go of the life everyone expected them to live. "Best decision we ever made," she said. "We spent so many years taking care of everyone else. Our kids, our grandkids, our aging parents. And then one day we realized we'd forgotten to take care of ourselves." Her words resonated deep in my chest. That's exactly what I had done. I had spent so many years taking care of Devon, funding his dreams, supporting his choices, that I had completely forgotten I was allowed to have dreams of my own. "It's never too late," Barbara said, as if reading my mind. "That's what I've learned out here. It's never too late to choose yourself." The next morning, I woke up to Scout's wet nose pressing against my face. The sun was just coming up, painting the mountains in shades of pink and gold. I made coffee in my little RV kitchen, feeling more at home in this 28 feet of space than I had in my big house in Cedar Falls. We drove through Montana, stopping at every scenic overlook, every quirky roadside attraction, every small town that looked interesting. I took photographs not because I needed to prove to anyone that I was having fun, but because I wanted to remember these moments for myself. In a small art gallery in Missoula, I bought a watercolor painting of the mountains. The artist, a woman in her 70s with paint-stained fingers and kind eyes, asked me where I was from. "Cedar Falls, Iowa," I said. "But I'm not sure that's home anymore." She smiled. "Home is wherever you decide it is. That's the beauty of being free." We continued west, through Idaho and into Washington. I called Richard one evening from a campground near Seattle. We talked for over an hour, and when he asked when I was coming back to Cedar Falls, I realized I didn't have an answer. Maybe never, I said. Or maybe just to sell the house and make this permanent. Good for you, Maggie, he said, and I could hear the genuine happiness in his voice. You deserve to live your life on your own terms. I spent a week in Seattle, exploring the city, visiting museums and bookstores and coffee shops. Scout and I walked along the waterfront every morning, watching the ferries come and go. I felt invisible in the best possible way, just another person in a city full of people, no one knowing my history or my mistakes or my complicated relationship with my son. One afternoon, I was sitting in a park near Pike Place Market when my phone buzzed with an email notification. It was from Devon, sent to my old email address that I had forgotten to block. The subject line read, "Mom, please." I stared at it for a long moment, my finger hovering over the delete button. But something made me open it instead. The email was long, rambling, and full of justifications. He explained that Sienna had been stressed about work, that her parents had paid for their own tickets, so it wasn't fair that I was upset about them coming, that they thought I would be too demanding on the trip because I always needed so much attention. He said he was sorry I was hurt, but not that he was sorry for hurting me. He said he understood why I was angry, but not that what he did was wrong. He said they were struggling financially now, living in a small apartment and working extra hours to make ends meet, and maybe if I just helped them with a down payment on a new house, we could move past all this. I read the entire email twice. Then I closed it and deleted it without responding. Because that's what I had finally learned. Some people will never see you as anything more than what you can do for them. Some people will never value your presence, only your presence. And some relationships, no matter how much history they have, are better left in the past. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. I was just done. Scout nudged my hand with his nose, reminding me that we had a whole city to explore and a whole life to live. I stood up, stretched, and we walked back toward the RV, leaving the email and everything it represented behind us. We spent 3 months on the road, wandering through the Pacific Northwest, down the California coast, across the Southwest. I hiked in national parks, swam in the ocean, watched sunsets from desert highways. I met other travelers, other people who had decided that the life they were expected to live wasn't the life they wanted. In a small town in New Mexico, I met a woman named Sarah who had left her high-powered corporate job to open a pottery studio. In Arizona, I had dinner with a couple who had sold everything to travel the world in their 70s. In Southern California, I joined a book club at a beachside campground and discussed novels with people who knew nothing about me except that I loved to read. I sent postcards to Richard and to a few close friends from my old book club. I posted photos on Facebook occasionally, carefully curated images of Scout and mountains and sunsets. Devon commented on a few of them with neutral statements like beautiful or looks nice, but I never responded. 6 months after I left Cedar Falls, I got a text message from an unknown number. It was Sienna. "Your son is in the hospital. Appendicitis. He asked me to let you know." My first instinct was panic. My second was to check flight times back to Iowa. But then I stopped and asked myself a question I had never asked before. What do I actually want to do? I texted back, "I hope he recovers quickly. Please keep me updated." That was all. No offer to fly back. No promise to help with medical bills. No automatic return to my old role as the person who fixed everything. Sienna responded an hour later, "That's it? You're not coming back?" "No," I typed. "I'm not." My phone rang immediately. I let it go to voicemail. Then I blocked that number too. Scout looked up at me from where he was sprawled in a patch of sunlight in the RV. "We're okay," I told him. "We're going to be okay." And we were. I eventually made my way back to Cedar Falls 8 months after I left, but not to stay. I returned to sell my house, to pack up the things I wanted to keep and donate the rest. Richard helped me sort through decades of accumulated belongings, and we laughed at old photographs and outdated kitchen gadgets and all the things I had thought were so important that turned out to be just stuff. "What will you do with the money from the house?" he asked. "Travel," I said without hesitation. "Maybe buy a small place somewhere warm for the winters. Maybe just keep wandering and see where I end up." Can I join you sometime? He asked, a little shy, a little hopeful. I smiled. I'd like that. Devon and Sienna didn't try to contact me while I was in town. I heard through the grapevine that they had moved to a different state for new jobs. I felt nothing when I heard this news. Not relief, not sadness, not even curiosity. Just a distant sense that some chapters close completely, and that's okay. The day before I left Cedar Falls for good, I drove past Oak Avenue one last time. The Kumar family had painted the house a cheerful yellow, and there were children's toys scattered across the lawn. A tire swing hung from the oak tree in the front yard. Wind chimes tinkled from the front porch. It looked like a home. A real home, full of love and laughter and the kind of chaos that comes from living life fully. I was glad I had sold it to them. Glad that something good had come from my painful decision. I spent my last evening in Cedar Falls having dinner with Richard and a few friends from my book club. They toasted to my new adventure, to my courage, to the life I was building for myself. Mrs. Peterson, who had always been a bit judgmental about my situation with Devon, surprised me by saying, "You did the right thing, Maggie. It takes strength to choose yourself." The next morning, Scout and I hit the road again. The Airstream was packed, the house was sold, and Cedar Falls was shrinking in my rearview mirror. This time, I knew I wouldn't be back. We drove south toward warmth and sunshine. I had reservations at a campground in the Florida Keys for a month, and after that, my calendar was blissfully empty. No obligations. No expectations. No one depending on me for anything except Scout, who only needed food and walks and affection, all of which I was happy to give. Somewhere in Tennessee, my phone buzzed with a Facebook notification. Devon had posted something. Against my better judgment, I looked. It was a photo of him and Sienna at some restaurant, smiling at the camera. The caption read, "Finally getting back on our feet. Grateful for new opportunities and fresh starts." No mention of me. No acknowledgement of everything that had happened. Just a carefully curated image of a life that looked perfect on the surface. I closed the app and didn't open it again for weeks. Because that's the thing about breaking free from people who use you. They move on. They find other people to manipulate, other resources to tap, other relationships to extract value from. And the best revenge isn't confrontation or vindication. It's building a life so full and rich and genuinely happy that you stop caring whether they ever understand what they lost. That evening, we pulled into a campground near the coast. Scout and I walked down to the beach, and I stood with my feet in the warm sand, watching the sun sink into the ocean in shades of orange and pink and purple that looked like they couldn't possibly be real. Scout chased seagulls along the waterline, barking joyfully at the waves. A couple walked past us, holding hands and laughing about something. A family was building a sandcastle nearby, the kids squealing as the waves came in. And I stood there, a 68-year-old woman with a rescued dog and an RV and no one depending on me for anything, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not happiness exactly, though there was that too. But deeper than happiness. A bone-deep sense of rightness, of being exactly where I was supposed to be, of having finally found my way back to myself. The sun disappeared below the horizon, and the sky turned from gold to pink to deep purple. Stars started appearing one by one. Scout came back to me, panting and sandy and happier than any dog has a right to be. "What do you think, buddy?" I asked him. "Should we stay here for a while?" His tail wagged enthusiastically, which I took as a yes. We spent the next 6 weeks in the Keys. I learned to paddleboard. I took a watercolor class at a local art studio. I joined a group of RV travelers who met every Thursday for potluck dinners and storytelling. I read books on the beach, drank wine while watching sunsets, and woke up every morning grateful for the simple fact that my life was my own. Richard came to visit for a week, and we explored the islands together. He fit seamlessly into my new life, asking nothing, expecting nothing, just enjoying my company. On his last night, we sat on the beach after dinner, and he took my hand. "I'm proud of you," he said. "I know that probably sounds presumptuous, but I am. What you did took courage." "Or selfishness," I said. "Depending on who you ask." "Choosing yourself isn't selfish," he said firmly. Especially when the alternative is letting people use you until there's nothing left. I squeezed his hand. Thank you. Will you come back to Cedar Falls? Ever? I thought about it. Maybe to visit. But it's not home anymore. Where is home? I looked at Scout sleeping in the sand beside us, at the RV parked under palm trees, at the ocean stretching endlessly ahead. Here, I said. Wherever I am. That's home. As I write this, I'm sitting in a campground in the mountains of North Carolina. It's been 18 months since I left Cedar Falls. 18 months since I sold Devon's house out from under him. 18 months since I chose myself for the first time in my adult life. I haven't spoken to my son in all that time. He's tried to reach out a few times, always when he needs something. A character reference for a job application. Money for car repairs. Help with legal fees from some dispute I don't fully understand and don't want to. I've ignored every request. Some people might think I'm a terrible mother for this. That family should forgive. That blood is thicker than water. That I should be the bigger person and let it all go. But I've learned something important in these 18 months of freedom. The full quote is, "The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb." The bonds we choose are stronger than the bonds we're born with. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is let people experience the consequences of their actions. Devon is fine, by the way. I know this because I still have one mutual friend who keeps me vaguely updated, though I don't ask. He and Sienna are working, living, figuring things out like adults do. They don't need me. They never needed me. They just needed my money, and when they couldn't have that anymore, they found other ways to survive. Which is exactly what they should have been doing all along. Scout just nudged my laptop, reminding me that it's time for our evening walk. The sun is setting behind the mountains, painting the sky in those impossible colors that never get old no matter how many times I see them. Richard is flying in tomorrow for another visit, and we're planning to spend the next month exploring the Smoky Mountains together. I'm 69 years old. I'm healthier and happier than I've been in decades. I have a dog who loves me unconditionally, friends who actually care about me as a person rather than a resource, and a whole world still left to explore. And I have myself. Finally, after all these years of giving pieces of myself away to people who never appreciated them, I have myself back. That's not a tragedy. That's not cruelty. That's not selfishness. That's victory. Scout and I walk down toward the overlook, where the view stretches for miles in every direction. The air is cool and clean, and somewhere in the distance, I can hear other campers laughing around a fire. This is my family now. The people I choose. The life I built. The peace I fought for. And I wouldn't change a single thing.